You see, though Jonah was disobedient, disappointed, felt like he was a failure, he was prejudiced, had unmet expectations. Did you see in these last few verses what his root really was, his problem? God asked him, have you any right to be what? Angry. While all these things were true in his life, at the heart, the baggage, the emotional baggage, the root that bore this horrible fruit, whether it be prejudice or bitterness or disappointment, at the root of it, well, it's not those things. This was the bad fruit produced from a root of anger. And I can tell you, as one famous philosopher said long ago, fear leads to the dark side. From fear to anger. From anger to hate. And hate leads to suffering. And that tells Jonah's story so true. Jonah responded to God. He responded to himself. He responded to the directions and all those things in his life because he was filled with anger. You would have thought God would have talked to him about, Jonah, a lot of things, good things have happened, that people have repented and all this sort of thing, and I provided. And, when you were in the sea drowning, you were down there deep, and I had to send my little taxi service to pick you up. Don't you remember all of those good things? But sometimes we sort of put a Band-Aid on those things in our life, our hurts, our disappointments, our hang-ups, and everything else. Or either we try to address things that seem to be manifesting in some of the ways when in fact that's not the problem at all. It's true with our physical bodies. Our physical bodies, when they are sick, sometimes show symptoms of something that has nothing to do necessarily of that symptom. Sometimes other things occur, pains occur, but it's not the heart at all. In fact, a lot of people think they're having a heart attack when in fact it's a gallbladder attack. For Jonah, everything he seemed to do, everything he seemed to say, was rooted in anger. And I think the confusion or the thing that's going to challenge us today is when we think of anger, we think of someone just losing. This person's really angry. They're talking loud, they're really boisterous, they're getting really in someone's face, all that kind of stuff. We think of that as anger. We think of anger as argument between husband and wife, argument between friends. And those are probably arguments that root in anger. But what we cannot see often is that sometimes our behavior, the way we listen to other people, we hear them saying one thing and they're actually not saying that at all. We don't have any sort of real outburst of anger, but deep inside, that pit of anger drives us to be manipulative. It drives us to always be the sort of I didn't do it kind of guy. It's always someone else's fault. And we can do it with a straight face. There's no visible sign of anger. In fact, unresolved anger that is not dug out of the dirt of your life, you will be captive and you will be enslaved. You'll think you're going about a normal, regular routine. And we're not talking about impulsiveness and all those other things that may be a part of it when we think of, anger. But everything in your life, when you do things, the way you react when things don't go your way, again, as whatever people say, you're hearing it differently. It's always through this lens of anger. And for all general purposes, everything that you see or do and experience with God somehow is always seen as, why is God doing this to me? God doesn't love me. If we're always saying that, you can be assured that part of your root problem is that if it's always God, why? I mean, not that we shouldn't ask why. I mean, I ask why. I mean, what does this mean? What am I going to do? But you always have this poor party me thing. Oh, God, why did this happen? It's always something. You know, everything's bad is happening to me, and yada, 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 yada. And then you get around people, and then people don't even be around you. They get tired of hearing this stuff. They don't want to ask you, good day, how are you doing? Because they don't want to know. Because if they ask you how you're doing, you will give them a full course meal, and they really don't want to hear it. And sadly, every time you come out, it's always the same thing. How are you doing? And just buzz. Everybody's against me. Everything went wrong. I can't believe that happened. Oh, you know, so it happened at work this week. So-and-so did this at work. So-and-so did that at work. They always want to be the guy who was right and wronged by someone else. And at the root of that sort of pity, party, defensive sort of mentality is the root of anger. And that's why it's cloaked with such a bit of ambiguity, because it's not always visible in the sense of as we see those who are outbursts of anger and so forth. But these are the things that are deep-seated in our life that manipulates and guards and troubles us in many, many ways. And it will hold us. It's like slavery, guys. It's like slavery. So I think we come to the question of, well, how do I deal with my anger? How do I deal with it? Well, I think the first thing is to, what I would say, take a complete and total inventory of your life. I mean, write it down. I mean, really sit down and as best that you can, you go back as far in your mind as you can to childhood, to youth, to young adult, and up to wherever you are now. And you take away all the veneers, you take off the religious facade, you take off all this stuff that you got all covered to cover up this stuff. And you just open your heart and life up before God, and you take a complete and total inventory of your life. And you write these things down. Where in my life has anger really driven? Or where in my life that I